Hello and welcome to my Working with Work series. This is episode 6 and today I want to talk to you about trusting your system. Now, one of the things that I've learned about productivity is it takes a long time to find a system that actually works for you. But once you've found a system that works, the next key thing is to really trust that system. And when I've been working with my own clients, what I find is the number one reason why most people fail is not because of so many tasks that are coming in or because they just feel completely overwhelmed. I mean, that can be some of the issues. But one of the biggest issues is the fact that many people tend to not trust their system. And what I mean by trusting their system is the two key areas for me with any system is the capture and the processing. You need to capture everything, no matter whether you're confident you will remember it or not, but you need to capture it. And the next thing is that you are processing within every 24 to 48 hours. Now, these days, I would be very uncomfortable if I wasn't processing every 24 hours. But I do know some people may have business meetings late at night. They may have client entertaining late at night, and really trying to do a process when you've had a big dinner and a few glasses of wine, maybe that's going to be a little difficult. But for me personally, I would process every night before I go to bed. That 10 to 15 minutes is crucial to my productivity system. But the first thing is that trusting that when I capture my idea or commitment or even appointment, that is going to show up no matter what. Now, one of the reasons why I love Todoist and indeed I love Evernote are those two applications are completely solid. I've never had a breakdown with any of those systems. And so what that means is that when I capture something in Todoist, no matter what it is, I trust that it's going to be in my inbox at the end of the day. And it really is important that you trust that whatever you capture is going to be in your inbox when you process your captured stuff later in the day. The next thing is that a lot of people fail because they have way too many inboxes. Now, if I think about it, I essentially have 3 inboxes. The first one is my Todoist, which is captured every day and processed every day. My second one is Evernote, which, yes, I look at every day, but I generally process the inbox once a week, but I know I will process it once a week. And the third one is actually a little plastic wallet that I keep in my bag, just in case somebody gives me a piece of paper or I capture a receipt or anything like that. That would actually be put into my plastic wallet, and again, I don't check that every day because I'm not collecting that many physical pieces of paper, but I do have a routine task in Todoist to tell me to check that folder every 2 days. So those are the 3 inboxes I essentially have. I do have a physical inbox next to my desk, but that's obviously right there. I can see that every day, but again, since I've gone digital, I've not really used that inbox very often. But the key thing is that you have as few inboxes as you possibly can. Now, I don't spend much time in the office. My work involves me going to my clients' offices, so I've got a very, very mobile system. But if you're working in a physical place every day, like for example an office, or you worked from home, then having a physical inbox may be useful, and you could just write down the idea on a scrap of paper and put it into your inbox. Very, very good. But what you have to do is to make sure that those inboxes you trust you will process within 24 to 48 hours, depending on what kind of work you do. Once you do trust your system, though, what actually starts to happen is you start to let go of the stress of trying to remember things, and it's I don't know, it is an eye-opening feeling when you've gone from where you're not trusting your system to trusting your system. Your brain lets go, which then gives you, I know this sounds very psychological, but it is actually true. Once you really trust your system, and your brain knows that you will be checking your inboxes within 24 to 48 hours, I can promise you the stress just feels like it's lifted from your shoulders. And another benefit is you do actually become far more creative, because it's as if your brain now has a lot more space to actually think. And I mentioned this in the episode where I dealt with your external brain, is writing everything down. But one thing I didn't go into too much detail about was the trusting the system. Now, one of the problems that people will have is they will read a book like Getting Things Done, or my Todoist book, or even Your Digital Life, which I wrote, and then they'll try and create their system in one weekend. Now, this is not going to happen. You're not going to learn to trust your system if you try and do everything over one weekend. One of the important things is to focus in on one thing at a time. Now, for me, if I was starting all over again, the place that I would be focusing on is my inbox and my processing. My project folders, my labels, and digital storing system would come later. The most important thing for me, whenever you're starting out on any productivity system, is the collection or capture and the processing. Those need to be habitual. And I mean that. You really have to get into the habit of capturing and processing. Capturing and processing. Once you get into that habit, then the folders, the project folders, the labels, and your digital filing system, whether that's Microsoft's OneNote or Evernote, or any other kind of note-taking application like Bear or even Apple Notes, those things can come later. What I would be focused on right at the very beginning is that capture and process. Focus in on that. Keep it very simple. Once that's habitual, once it truly is a habit, then you can start expanding. And actually what you will find is it will be organic. Project folders will just appear because they're obviously a project folder. Your digital filing system will evolve because it will become very, very clear what an item is and where it goes. But get that first part right, the capturing. Make sure it's very, very, very easy to capture whatever it is you're capturing, whether it's a commitment, an appointment, or a task. And then you can move on to the next stage. But it is one of those strange things that I've found that many people really fall down, and it's like they're falling down at the first hurdle. And what you have to do is to develop that trust. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. I think it took me maybe 2 or 3 months, if I'm being completely honest, before I really trusted my system. And it's not just about trusting myself to capture stuff. I mean, that is something that you can make sure by being disciplined, you can make sure that happens. But it's also trusting the applications that you're using. And if you're using an application that you don't completely trust, or even if you don't completely understand, then I'm afraid your system is going to fall down and it's just going to break. This is another problem that I find with people who are constantly switching their applications. They're going from Wunderlist to Todoist to OmniFocus to Remember the Milk. Yes, of course, it's okay to try applications out, but you need to find an application that you trust. And if you're constantly switching, you're not going to completely trust your system. Likewise, if you have too many applications, I hear a lot of people will have a to-do list to manage their to-dos and tasks. They'll have another application to manage their goals and their plans. Again, I think it's too broad, and it's a lot of things that you're going to have to remember to check. So the fewer the inboxes that you have, the more trust you're going to have in your system. And you're also less likely to have anything, as they say, slip through the cracks and miss anything. I've also, as I think I've mentioned before, about if you have a company calendar system that's, say, Google Calendar, then really that's the one you should be using, not necessarily Apple Calendar and Google Calendar. Or if you're using Microsoft Outlook, again, if you can use, if Microsoft, I'm not sure if they do have an application now where the calendar is on your iOS or Android device, But still, it needs to be one calendar, one to-do list, one digital filing system. You're much more likely to trust your system if that's what you're doing. But if you're trying to manage so many different inboxes, something is going to slip. You're going to miss something. So try to focus in on that trust and get one application that you personally trust. Now, as I mentioned before, I personally trust Todoist. It's never let me down. I also trust Evernote because that's never let me down. I know there's a lot of great alternatives to Evernote out there at the moment. OneNote is fantastic. There's Bear Notes, which is coming on and is doing really, really well. But for me, I trust Evernote. It's never let me down, and I'm sticking with it until something comes along, maybe that is easy to trust and easy to use. But the key to a great productivity system is its simplicity and the fact that you trust your system. It's the thing about David Allen. David Allen, as I've mentioned many times before, shows his note-taker wallet. He's been using that for 20, 30 years. He trusts that system. He trusts his inbox. And this is the key. You've got to trust your system. If you don't trust your system, I can promise you it's going to fall apart, and you're going to be looking around and you're going to be blaming the application, you're going to be blaming other people, you're going to be blaming the amount of work that you have, and it's nothing of those. The problem is you didn't trust your system, or you didn't give it enough time to develop the trust. Okay, that's all I wanted to talk to you about today. It is an issue that keeps coming up. I know I briefly covered it when we talked about tools, and I also briefly covered it when I talked about the external brain. But I think it's really important that you truly understand that one of the key parts of any great productivity system is that you truly trust that when you put something into it, you are going to process it, you are going to see it, and more importantly, you're going to act on it at the appropriate time. Okay, thank you very much for watching this episode. I hope you're getting a lot out of these episodes. I'm trying to give you topics that come up throughout the week from my clients and from other people that I work with, and also from the Productivity in Tech Facebook group, which, by the way, I strongly recommend that you join, because there's a lot of people writing on there, and I can get a lot of ideas of maybe how I can help them by talking to, as I call this, talking on camera. So anyway, thank you very much for watching today. I hope you all have a very, very productive week, and I will see you in the next episode.